Sometimes they tease me that I'm short, and sometimes just because I'm a girl. Your religion's funny. Your religion is fake and it's not real.
I hear someone say that white people are more cooler than black people. They called me an ugly head and big face and tiny hair.
You're gay. You shouldn't be in this school. You're brown. He'd say, you guys are lesbians, or like, you guys are gay.
Piggy,
Weirdo.
ugly, stupid.
You're fat. You're wearing a girl shirt. And I was like, okay, I'll change my shirt.
Negro, estúpido.
The B word.
I don't think that teachers see everything. There are places in the school where students don't necessarily feel respected.
We know bullying happens in our school. What can we do about this? Blue was a quiet color. Well, red was a hothead. He liked to pick on blue. Red is a great This is the first time I've taught this lesson. It felt natural, like it was something that I wanted to talk to my kids about. Every time Red said something mean and no one spoke up, he got bigger. One child in particular has had a couple kids tease him, and so I thought it would be a good time for this. If you were one of these colors, how would you feel?
I would feel really, really sad.
Why?
Because it makes fun of the way you are and everything, and you can't help what you are.
There were kids who spoke up that don't usually speak up as much in a group situation.
A girl.
Whatever we were talking about hit them at an emotional level and a gut level.
He's sad and mad.
One came. One turned to the colors and said, if someone is mean and picks on me, I, for one, stand up and say no. Then yellow felt brave and said, me too. Sometimes it just takes one. I'm wondering if you ever see a red and some other colors, or people feeling sad or unimportant. I have a heart up here. And while you're saying those things, I'm just gonna crumple the heart a little bit.
She crumpled a paper heart to give us an example of our heart.
How did it make you feel?
First, it's the same and it's fine, but then once you get bullied, it starts to crumple and get hurt. Well, when I was in first grade, this big girl kept on flicking me in the head.
So that hurt.
In two ways.
What are the two ways?
One physically, one mentally. This person on my bus, he keeps on making fun of me.
Does that happen lots?
Every day.
Let's pretend if you were at Deborah's bus stop, what could we do as friends of Deborah to help? Quentin?
Tell the bus driver.
Okay, tell an adult.
Another thing she could do was like stand up to it like one did to Red in the story.
Okay, so who would stand up to Red?
Her friends.
If all of these people stood straight up like an arrow and said, no,
No.
do you think it would help?
Yes. Maybe.
2 or 3 kids came up to me right after the lesson and they wanted to tell me about things that were said to them that hurt. Meant that that was a success. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about when you feel safe, where you feel safe, how you feel safe. We've just started Welcoming Schools program last year, and so now we're really implementing lessons after we've done a little bit of training and kind of feeling comfortable with it.
What makes you feel safe at school? Jamara?
Teachers?
Teachers might make you feel comfortable. What else makes you feel comfortable at school? Jocelyn?
I feel safe at school because there's rules.
Definitely. Rules help people feel safe, don't they? Especially when the rules are enforced, when people have to follow the rules.
It's important for them to be able to identify where they were when they were unsafe and what happened that made them unsafe.
You're gonna decide if these places are safe, unsafe, or sometimes they're safe and sometimes they're unsafe.
Most people picked sometimes safe and sometimes not safe.
That was kind of shocking to me that nobody thought the bus was safe, the stairs, or the coat closet.
I knew that the bus wasn't going to be safe, so I kind of thought that would be a good seller to get the conversation started.
What makes the bus unsafe? Now remember, unsafe can be with your body, with your words, or with your feelings, right? Luis, talk to me.
And the bus, two fourth graders called a name to one third grader about his color skin.
Do you remember what the name was about his skin color?
Yeah.
Did you feel comfortable saying or not really?
Yeah.
Okay, you can say it if you want.
They called him chocolate balls.
Has anybody ever heard anybody get called a name because of their skin color? I know I have, especially when I was little too, even as an adult.
When we have discussion like that in class, I feel like more comfortable. You get to tell someone that you know what happens to you, and I think that's a good thing. In second grade, a boy that says whoever touched the floor is gay or lesbian.
Does anybody know what it means to be gay or lesbian?
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean, Michelle?
A girl likes another girl, and if a boy likes another boy, that means like they're gay or lesbian.
Do you really think that in the game, if they touched the floor, that they would be gay or lesbian?
No.
No.
I think that there'll be an even deeper conversation after they start recognizing and looking around and noticing that that's name calling, that makes me feel unsafe, identifying those things.
I want you to imagine that you are watching the following situation. You have to decide what you personally would do in that situation. Get help from an adult. Talk to the person in private. Ignore or walk away. Finally, here's our last sign. Try to stop it myself.
When you are with a group of friends, one of them makes fun of a younger student because of the way he or she dresses. How would you respond to that? I'm going to go with the biggest group right now. You're at the section that says you're going to attempt to negotiate or stop the situation.
It's not like bad enough that you need to get an adult so you can work it out yourselves, but you don't need to like walk away from the situation. If we could sort it out without having to get adults involved, because adults always seem to make it like bigger and harder to solve.
And then the person would get mad at you for telling.
Okay, Rosita, do you have something to add?
I think you should talk to the person in private because, like, you also want to stand up for your friend and the person.
You feel like you have to honor your friendship with the person who said mean things, but you also want to
Support the other person.
support the other person. One of your fourth grade friends decides to call a new student at HLA a bad name because of her skin color.
Okay, so is everyone in a spot?
I tell an adult because things like that are like more powerful than different kinds of words.
I would get an adult because if I would just do it myself, I'd probably get in trouble because I might start something too. You never know.
Well, since I'm African American and I'm like sort of familiar with this, I would like talk to the person that was bullying the person, and then if I couldn't handle it and they like wouldn't listen, then I would go get the teacher.
A new kid calls your friend gay. What do you do?
I would get help from an adult because adults know more about this kind of situation.
Okay, how about this group? You're going to ignore it. Xavier.
I would just ignore it because I really wouldn't know how to handle it. if like, what if they don't know what the word even means or
Okay. The bystander is an interesting concept to me, and I think with the students too. I don't think they think of themselves as if they're witnessing something and not doing anything about it. I don't think that they really think that that's part of the whole bullying part. This is a group that would try to stop it or intervene. So, Takara, what do you have to say?
I would have said, like, maybe that's just how they are and you really can't change just the way you are. And my aunt's gay and you can't change it.
I want you to think in your mind right now what you would want to be known as. If we are going to be a bystander, we are just going to stand by and ignore the situation when someone is getting hurt. Or we can choose to be an ally.
I don't know that I will immediately see empowered allies coming to the defense of people who are being bullied and who are being teased. But my hope is that by the end of the school year, we will see that.
If kids don't feel welcome because of being other or having a difference, they're not going to achieve.
If a student isn't feeling safe or comfortable, they aren't focusing on what I'm teaching them, if it's dividing or whatever it is. If they aren't feeling safe, they're focusing on their own safety.
To me, it's a no-brainer. You have to make sure that our students are comfortable talking about difference and talking about what brings us together, what might bring us apart, so that they can ease into their learning and feel confident in their growth.